Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Total QA. In today's video, we're going to discuss about how are we going to use CSS in Selenium. We have different types of locators in Selenium. One of the locators is CSS Selector. Before we move on, understand how do we use CSS Selector. First thing, we need to understand what is CSS. So the CSS tutorial has been divided into two different parts. Part 1, we focus on CSS Introduction. Part 2, we focus on how do we use CSS Selector in Selenium. So let's start getting into what is CSS and the introduction about CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, useful for applying the better look and feel for the elements displayed in the HTML page. We can apply different styles to the elements that are getting displayed. You can apply color, you can apply padding, you can apply you can apply even color, div color for the div. You can apply span color, you can apply color for the paragraph. So there are different ways of applying style for the elements that are getting displayed. If you look at CSS, totally there are three types of CSS: Inline CSS, Internal CSS, External CSS. So we will look into Inline CSS, first one. When do we call it as a Inline CSS? If you mention style attribute for an element, we call it as inline style. Suppose if you wanted to apply a look and feel for the text box as say yellow color. This yellow color is mentioned as part of the element when we define using an attribute called style, then we call it as inline CSS. Okay, so let's look into the example now. So this is the HTML example. If you look at, there are two different text boxes here, and I have applied colors also. And how do we apply the color? I will show you the HTML source. How do we read the HTML source? If you wanted to view the HTML source of this web page, right click on the web page, just select view page source. If you scroll down, I have applied the style for this input element. The style is background color yellow, semicolon, padding left 20 pixels from the left hand side. So I applied two different styles. One is yellow, one is padding left 20 pixel. If you look at the web page, when I try to enter the text, say Selenium, you can look at here, there's a padding space here. You see, on the left hand side, there's some space of 20 pixel here. But if you look at here, say suppose I just try to type Selenium, again, if you look at for password, it is coming from the left hand side without any spaces. But why for the username there are some spaces? Because we mentioned the padding as 20 pixel. If you mention the padding as 20 pixel, then from the left hand side there is some space for the username text box. So this is an example for inline CSS. Why? Because we applied style attribute here. So let me copy this as an example for inline CSS. Okay, so as I mentioned clearly, if you mention style attribute for an element, we call it as inline CSS. Now, what is the disadvantage of inline CSS? The disadvantage is, suppose we apply the style as background color yellow for two different text boxes. This is one text box. This is another text box. In these two lines of statement of HTML source code, if you wanted to modify yellow color to red color, we have to modify in two places. One place here, another place here. So the disadvantage is if you apply the style attribute at the element level using style attribute is equal to background color is equal to colon yellow for different input elements. If you wanted to modify, you have to modify in different places. Okay, that is a disadvantage of inline CSS. Let's move on to internal CSS. So in internal CSS, what we do here is we mention style attribute at the head section and the HTML head section and use attribute name class at the tag level. This lot of us are familiar because we might have seen in majority of the HTML pages we use class is equal to. We can mention multiple class names for an element separated by spaces as shown below. See, you are applying class is equal to red color space, or you can apply class is equal to input text 58 mg 5 dpa 2 ph. And what are all these? These are all defined in the HTML head section under the style tags. See here, style tag is there. Suppose for example I wanted to apply this style, I just need to mention here the class is equal to text box color as an attribute. Okay, so let's look into an example for internal CSS. Okay, so this is our web page. Let me refresh again. Okay, this is our web page. If you look at for the password, let me try to find out for the password. Right click, say inspect element. If you look at the HTML source code here, input ID is equal to password, class is equal to text box color. Let me highlight the text box color. If you look at the text box color, class is equal to text box color. It is defined in the head section, style section. It is defined text box color as this. Background color yellow for text box color, background color red for the text box color 1. So if you look at under the style section, style tag, we are using text box color 1 as background color red and we are applying here class is equal to text box color 1. Okay, so what is the content of text box color 1? You can even refer to the right hand side. See here, this is what defined. So the advantage here is we are maintaining the style section totally removed from the HTML body section and maintained in the HTML style section under head section. See here, under head section you have a style section. And what is the class we applied? Text box color. What is the content of the text box color? You can refer to the right hand side here. Similarly, suppose for example if you want to look at for this username, see this is what we applied, background color yellow, padding left 20 pixel for the username. So when you inspect an element, right click, select the element, right click, inspect, we can see the information in the bottom and find the details about the class and also the element as well. Okay, so the same thing has been explained in the example also. See the style section in the HTML head section. Let me write down for information HTML under head section. We are going to define this. Okay, so what is the advantage of this? Suppose if you apply text box color to multiple elements. Suppose I am applying text box color to multiple elements. See, I apply here as input type is equal to say text, id is equal to uname. Similarly, we try to repeat the same for password as well. Now if you look at we're applying class is equal to text box color. It means what is the content of text box color? The content of text box color is here background color yellow. So these two text boxes are having background color yellow. Now suddenly I am interested to modify the color from yellow to red. So how many places I have to modify? Or I wanted to change from yellow to green. How many places I have to modify? So there is an advantage when you compare with inline CSS. The reason being, if there is a change, we change only in one place. Even though we apply this text box color for multiple elements, we change in only one place. This is the advantage. But there is one more disadvantage here. Suppose for example, I wanted to apply this style for multiple HTML pages. Not only for one HTML page, I have multiple HTML pages. For all the HTML pages in my application, I wanted to put text box color as green. I wanted to use the same style for all the HTML pages. Then how do we manage it? So what we do is, if you wanted to maintain and apply the same style section for multiple HTML web pages in the application, we will remove this content here. Let me remove this content. And I create a new file. I put the information here. I remove the style section here. Just maintain only this information in the new file. And I will save this as file, save as. I'll just mention the file name as mystyle.css, and I will select here as all files, all types here, mystyle.css. Let me click on save. So what is happening here is the style section is totally removed from the HTML source code, keeping it in a separate file, and this file, we refer this file in the external CSS like this. External CSS like this. Link rel is equal to style sheet, href is equal to mystyle.css. That's it. If you do this, what will happen? We are referring to the style section available in the separate file, and we try to remove this content from the HTML source code. So I'll show this example now. If you look at here, we are already having style section here. I just mentioned it for our information right now. So I'll remove this content right now, but still we can apply the styles. Why? Because we will uncomment this section right now. Okay, how do we uncomment? Let's see now. Okay, so let me go to this file. Okay, so let me try to edit the file. The file name is loginpage.html. Right click on the loginpage.html. Say edit with Notepad++. Now I will remove this style section. I will remove this comment section. Okay. Save. So what are we trying to do? We are referring to mystyle.css. What is the content of mystyle.css? I already copy pasted here. So do you see any information related to the class is equal to text box color we are maintaining it here? But are you seeing any information here? No, right? Even we can even change this also, right? We can even put here class is equal to this. What is background color yellow here? Let me check what is background color yellow. The background color yellow is not there. Let me put here yellow. Text box color is background color yellow. And padding left is 20 pixel. What is padding left 20 pixel? Here it is defined as this class name. And one more important point I will tell you, when you apply class equal to multiple styles, you have to give here not semicolon, you have to give space. This we call as compound class names, right? A class is having multiple styles separated by a space. We call it as a compound class names. Okay, save it. Now let me refresh the website. Now do you see anything in the head section? Check guys. No, but still the web page is working fine. Why? If you look at to my style CSS, let me see here. My style CSS is containing all the information. And also if you scroll down and see here, the text box color content is showing here. You see here. Similarly for the table row, table data, padding left 20 pixel, background color yellow. Okay, so it is very important for us to understand how do we use CSS. Okay, what are the different types of CSS before we understand CSS Selector in Selenium. One more important point I'll repeat here. If there are multiple class names, you can try to provide multiple class names at the HTML element level by giving a space. Suppose for example I want to apply padding, then you have to give using a space, right? But if you are applying a style attribute, you have to give semicolon. Okay, that's the difference. So the more details about CSS Selector, how do we use CSS Selector or how do we identify the elements using CSS Selector, we will look into that in the next part, that is part 2. So please try to watch part 2 as well for understanding how do we use CSS Selector in Selenium. Okay, thanks for watching this video. If you like my video, please subscribe and share with your friends.